Let us look at this PDP zoning of their presidential candidate to the southern part of the country for the purpose of 2027 presidential election. The reaction that is trailing it. But of course, personally, I'm an advocate of that the South should complete their 8 years in Aso Rock. As it stands, PDP seem not to be circumspect in their style, in their approach, because we are seeing serious backlash, particularly from the north. And this is already inadvertently triggering support for Tinubu in the northern part of the country. We have to have it that so many northern groups who are feeling marginalized, who are feeling sidelined, and who are vowing to pitch their tent with Tinubu because of this PDP decision. And if you look at what APC did, shortly after APC saw the reaction trailing that decision, APC quickly rushed to the press to say that for 2027, that any APC member that is qualified to contest for president is free to challenge Senator Bola Tinubu in that primary. Even as they know that nobody can wrestle with Tinubu, that is because they are actually trying to play the game with PDP. But again, let us quickly look at some groups who are vowing that they would rather support Tinubu to accept PDP position. As we have it, the national president of the Arewa Youth Consultative Forum, talking about Shetima Yerima, is very vocal that what has happened is purely against the North, that it's undemocratic. We understand that actually there is no regarding zoning, but of course, the original agreement having that if the North govern for 8 years, the South will govern for 8 years. But I think what PDP fail to do is to be circumspect in their decision making. Because since 1999, when this original agreement started, it's not as if the party will come out openly to say, we are zoning to this area. Within the party, it's understandable that all the stakeholders, when it comes to primary, hence is a southern turn, they will all swing the vote to the southern turn for the purpose of the presidential primary. But again, the decision is already hurting PDP heavily, and the Tinubu seem to be the one benefiting from that decision, going by the different groups from the north that have spoken vehemently against the decision. And as we have it, we have another group. Of course, this one is not central political stakeholders vowing to resist that decision of PDP. Of course, making it clear that the decision cannot stand. Because we understand that there is no constitutional provision that guarantees that position, but it is because of that unwritten agreement. But again, the man Tinubu is now trying to cash in on it. Perhaps this is why they say it's a matter of strategies. But again, if you go further, you see that there's another major group in the north talking about the Joint Action Committee of Northern Youth Association that goes with the acronym of JACON. It's very vehement again that instead of them to accept PDP position, that they would rather move en masse to support the man, Senator Bola Tinubu, in that coming election. So where do this leave political watchers, of course pundits, as we move towards this 2027 presidential election? But let us look at another one that has to do with the leader of the Arewa Youth Assembly, equally kicking against the move. What they are saying is that hence there is no constitutional provision that says you must zone the presidential ticket to a particular region, that they are not going to accept it, that instead that they will vote for Tinubu. But according to them, that zoning to the south is edging out sidelining qualified candidates from the northern part of the country. But again, what is happening is purely politics. And if you go deeper into the politics of 2027, as we have it currently, it's turning out that the master strategist himself, Tinubu himself, is already balkanizing almost all the opposition political parties. Because before now, we saw an accusation from Atiku, who accused political chairmen of opposition political parties of collecting 50 million each from the federal government, ostensibly to compromise opposition. And Obi have equally made a similar allegation where he accused federal government of orchestrating the crisis in the opposition political parties, particularly PDP and Labour Party. Though the president and the presidency, the presidential handlers denied it, but the president at a point admitted that he is happy when he sees opposition political parties in disarray, but denied of orchestrating the crisis in opposition political parties. But one undeniable fact is that PDP, for instance, is as good as not in existence for the purpose of the 2027 presidential election. The reason is not far-fetched, because Wike have virtually taken over PDP. And this is someone who have made it very clear, those still in PDP, and who have made it very clear that for the purpose of 2027 presidential election, that he's going to work for his master, that he's going to support Senator Bola Tinubu. So if that's the case, and he's in APC-led government, and he's in PDP, it's going to show that PDP will likely not have a formidable candidate for the purpose of 2027. Because it is very clear that as it stands, that the Damagun, the former acting national chairman of PDP, have made the substantive chairman. So if he have been made substantive chairman, we equally understand that Iwayan, who is the national secretary, is a close ally of Wike. Damagun is not just a close ally of Wike. Of course, Wike was instrumental to bring in Damagun as the other national chairman, and now he has made the substantive chairman. And as we have it, if they are to go into primary election in PDP, the national chairman and of course, the national secretary has a pivotal role to play in determining the delegates, the modality of the primary. Of course, they have overbearing influence to determine how the primary will swing. So if they are, both of them occupying those vital positions, are loyal to Wike, and Wike have made it very clear that for the purpose of 2027, he's going to support his principal, talking about Senator Bola Tinubu. He's going to show that invariably PDP may not have any serious candidates for the purpose of 2027. And the way it is, you look as if this is laying credence to the statement that came from the Senate President recently, talking about Senator Godwin Akpabio, who made it very clear that in the 2027 election, that Tinubu is going to stand as a sole candidate. I think it's gradually turning out to be so, because for me, PDP is not in the picture for 2027 because of the leadership crisis, and currently the party seems to have handed over the party to a Wike. But again, if you turn your attention to Labour Party is equally having its own fair share of internal crisis, particularly leadership crisis. Because even Julius Abure have been asked to stop parading himself as national chairman of Labour Party by a court of competent jurisdiction. And of course, we understand that the off-cycle elections that were conducted recently, INEC failed, or rather refused, to accept candidates from Abure-led ESCO of the Labour Party. So where did this leave us? It may leave us with the scenario of Zamfara State in the past, where after governorship election in Zamfara State, and there was a litigation, what they call ruled that the faction of APC in Zamfara State that produced the governorship candidate was not authentic ESCO. As such, the court nullified the election of the APC candidate and gave it to PDP. So the question here is, in the event that an OB, for instance, picks the candidate of Labour Party under Abure, and after the election, or even before close to the election, the case goes to court, and the court rule that Abure-led ESCO is not the real ESCO, automatically it means Obi is no longer in the race. That is why at this point, the likes of Obi, the likes of even Jonathan that is touted that he want to contest, must be circumspect. Particularly their legal handlers must be very careful, because They must deal with all issues surrounding litigation, particularly as it has to do with the leadership crisis in Labour Party and in PDP. If you even turn your attention to SDP, they are already having their own fair share of this same crisis. Because currently, we now have all resigned ESCO members of ADC, African Democratic Congress, who are claiming that they never resigned to pave way for David Mark-led ESCO. And as we have it, they are threatening that they are going to court. So what the guarantee that the court will not rule in their favor? Because once the court rules in their favor, it means all the energy, all the resources, all the time spent in putting together the coalition would have been a wasted one. And again, if someone like Obi or even a Jonathan happens to pick the ticket of SDP, the ADC, and a court ruled like the scenario of that state Zamfara state, it's going to show that at the end of the day, ADC may not have candidates as well. But again, where do all this leave us, political pundits? Because the way it is, PDP is not viable. It's not an option that is viable for the purpose of 2027 presidential election. Labour Party is not an option. And ADC is equally not an option from what we are seeing. Except otherwise, issues regarding leadership crisis in ADC is resolved before the politics of 2027 will properly set in. Because as it is, INEC recently allegedly refused to register a new political party coming from the coalition. This was a position canvassed by a former Rivers State governor, talking about Amechi, who argued that INEC is partisan, that they will not register the party they intended to register, which was All Democratic Alliance, ADA. But as we have it, INEC have never denied or accepted. But I don't know whether there's any push or move further to see whether INEC will do the needful to register such a political party. But let me quickly say that in 2015, the forming of APC was a major master stroke that pulled down PDP. And then under Jonathan, we had the Jaga as the NI chairman. And then government of Jonathan never resisted or stopped or gagged INEC to stop them from registering political parties. Otherwise, I think it will be very difficult for the opposition political parties to come together and win that election. But again, the way it is, I don't know how the opposition political parties want to strategize. Because the master strategist himself, the Tinubu himself, is watching every step the opposition political parties is taking. And as they make move, he is watching and following every other footstep. Even though it is difficult to link in directly to what is happening, prominent figures like Atiku, like Obi, have accused the government of the day that is being led by Tinubu of orchestrating the crisis in opposition political parties. But however I look at it, I think one-party system is not good for a democracy like Nigeria. Because power they say corrupt, absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think that is what is certain if we now have a one-party system. So school of thought has since accused the government, or rather the government of Senator Bola Tinubu, of state capture. But again, the president have maintained that he's a Democrat. Like I said earlier on, though he accepted that he enjoyed seeing opposition political parties in disarray and crisis, but he denied orchestrating those crises. But again, the question is to INEC. Why will INEC be refusing registration of political parties, most especially if they meet the criteria for registration? I think that's a big question that INEC owe Nigerians to answer, for Nigerians to know why INEC will not want to register political parties if those political parties meet the criteria set for party registration. But one thing is certain, I want to believe that those who seek to register political party know that court exists. Though as Nigerians, we do not totally trust the ability of court to do justice. But I think at some point, some people should go to court to challenge INEC in the event that you want to register a political party and you meet the criteria and they turn down the proposal. I think people should go to court to seek for the redress instead of allowing it to be the way it is. Because currently, even the discretionary power that INEC parades in terms of how to transmit election results, we are saying that the Electoral Act should be amended further to ensure that they do not parade such power, because the one they did in the last election of 2023, we are saying that they abused that power that was conferred on them by the Electoral Act. Hence, we are saying let the Electoral Act be amended in such a way that INEC no longer parade discretionary power. That power of liberty to determine the mode of transfer of election results, we are saying that that Electoral Act, particularly section 82, should be reviewed to compel INEC that you must transmit election results electronically. Because after the amendment and INEC was given that liberty, when INEC would come up with their guidelines before that 2023 presidential election, they were emphatic that they were going to transmit election results electronically. But unfortunately, they reneged at the nick of time and gave excuse of network glitch. Though Nigerians never believed that there was a genuine network glitch, but since the courts have legitimized the election result that produced Senator Bola Tinubu as the president, every Nigerian submits to the supremacy of the Supreme Court, because as we have it, Supreme Court is the highest arbiter in Nigeria. Not because the decision is infallible, but because they are final. But meanwhile, let me say a very big thank you for your time. This is Mr. Matu.